If you've ever traveled through the Philippine provinces, you know that the heartbeat of local transportation is the motorized tricycle. They are loud, colorful, and navigate the tightest provincial lanes at all hours of the day. But ask any driver working the dreaded midnight to 4 a.m. shift at a rural terminal, and they will tell you about the one fare every driver prays they never encounter. A lone, silent passenger waiting on a pitch-black stretch of highway, wearing traditional clothing or a rain-soaked dress. A passenger who boards the sidecar in absolute silence, directs the driver to a remote cemetery, and vanishes into thin air while the wheels are still turning. I'm an expat living out in the provinces, and you're watching Mysteries of the Philippines. The solitude of the terminal. When midnight passes in a small provincial town, the bustling energy of the local market completely dies down. The streetlights become sparse, and the only signs of life are the glowing neon signs of a lone convenience store and the small gathering of tricycle drivers waiting at the terminal. For the final commuters, the drivers who work these hours are a tough, superstitious bunch. They rely on their instincts, their knowledge of the local roads, and a deep respect for the supernatural. While city folks think of ghosts as figures in haunted houses, provincial drivers know that the spirits of the dead often wander the very asphalt. We drive on, looking for a way to complete a journey that was violently cut short. The rules of the midnight shift. To survive the night shift behind the handlebars of a provincial tricycle, there are certain unwritten rules that every veteran driver strictly follows. You never look directly into your passenger rearview mirror. When driving past an old balit tree, you always carry a small pouch of rock salt or a blessed religious medal on your dashboard, and most importantly, you never pick up a solo female passenger who refuses to show her face or speak directly to you at the terminal. According to the drivers, spirits that are trapped between worlds cannot easily cross water or enter well-lit spaces, which is why they target the isolated, unlit provincial bypass roads where the darkness provides them with a physical anchor to our reality. The encounter at the crossroads, the modern urban legend, finds its strongest foothold in a highly consistent account shared across several provincial transport cooperatives. A veteran driver named Kuya Jojo was heading back to the central terminal around 2 in the morning after dropping off a passenger in a remote barangay. As his headlight cut through the heavy mountain fog at a deserted crossroads, he saw a young woman standing perfectly still on the gravel shoulder, wearing a pristine, white dress that seemed completely untouched by the muddy road conditions. She signaled for a ride with a slow mechanical wave of her hand. Needing the extra fare to cover his fuel costs for the night, Jojo pulled over, inviting her to step inside the metal sidecar. The heavy sidecar. The moment the woman stepped into the sidecar, Kuya Jojo noticed a highly unsettling detail. The entire suspension of his heavy modification chassis groaned and dipped violently to the side, as if an object weighing hundreds of pounds had just boarded the vehicle. When he asked for her destination, she didn't speak. She simply pointed a pale, slender finger down the dark, winding highway toward the old municipal cemetery located on the outskirts of the town. Jojo felt a sudden, freezing chill drop the temperature inside his cabin, his breath turning to mist despite the humid tropical night air. He revved his engine and pulled back onto the asphalt, keeping his eyes locked firmly on the road ahead, terrified to look back at his passenger. The mirror of dread. As the tricycle sped down the unlit provincial highway, the silence inside the vehicle became absolutely suffocating. The loud, sputtering roar of the two-stroke motorcycle engine seemed to drop in volume, replaced by a low, rhythmic hum that vibrated through Jojo's handlebars. Unable to contain his anxiety any longer, Jojo cast a quick glance at his small handlebar mirror to check on his fare. To his absolute horror, the sidecar appeared completely empty in the reflection. Yet, when he turned his head slightly to look directly into the passenger cabin, he could clearly see the physical silhouette of the woman, sitting perfectly upright, her long dark hair draped forward, completely concealing her face from his view. The drop-off at the gates. When the tricycle finally sputtered to a halt in front of the rusted iron gates of the municipal cemetery, the absolute climax of the nightmare occurred. Kuya Jojo kept his engine idling, his hands trembling against the throttle as he announced that they had arrived at her destination. He waited for the sound of the metal sidecar door opening, but there was only a dead, heavy silence. When he finally mustered the courage to turn around completely to collect the fare, the sidecar was entirely empty. On the vinyl passenger seat sat a small pool of freezing, stagnant river water and a handful of withered white flowers that emitted the distinct, sickening aroma of a funeral parlor. The investigation of the route. Terrified by the supernatural encounter, Kuya Jojo sped back to the terminal, his face completely pale and his heart racing. When he recounted the story to the older drivers at the dispatch station, none of them looked surprised. They revealed that exactly 3 years prior, a young nurse waiting for a tricycle at that exact same crossroads, after a late hospital shift, was struck and killed by a speeding cargo truck in a hit-and-run accident. Her body was thrown into the deep drainage ditch at the side of the road, and she wasn't discovered until the following morning. Ever since that tragic night, her spirit has been known to hail passing tricycles, desperately trying to find a ride back to the final resting place she was denied. The scientific mind and fatigue. Psychologists and traffic safety researchers offer a much more rational, neurological explanation for these widespread midnight transport legends. Driving a vibrating, loud motorized vehicle down a pitch-black, hypnotic highway for hours on end can easily induce a state of extreme highway hypnosis and sensory deprivation. When a driver is severely fatigued, the brain begins to misinterpret the visual data entering the eyes. A low-hanging patch of white, mountain fog, or the reflection of a roadside banana tree leaf, caught in the headlight, for a split second can easily be transformed by a tired, superstitious mind into the solid silhouette of a spectral passenger, creating an incredibly vivid hallucination that feels entirely authentic to the driver. The final ride. Whether the ghost of the tricycle passenger is a genuine, tragic spirit seeking closure on the lonely roads, a shared psychological hallucination born from extreme fatigue, or a powerful modern urban legend that keeps our drivers alert during the dangerous hours of the night. Its presence is a permanent fixture of provincial transport culture. It stands as a reminder that every road we build cuts through a history of lives, losses, and lingering memories. I still enjoy taking my occasional late-night rides through the quiet provincial landscape, listening to the gentle hum of the night. But whenever I see a lone figure standing at a dark crossroads after midnight, I think of the unwritten rules of the road, because on the quiet highways of the islands, some fares are paying a price you do not want to collect.